All right, let's dive right in. We're talking about something called CTQ, or critical to quality. So what does that really mean? Well, it's all about finding that one thing, that one nerve that matters more than anything else to your customer. And then you've got to absolutely nail it. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. It sounds completely ridiculous, right? But you know what? This kind of thing happens all the time in business when we lose focus. We pour time, money, and all this energy into perfecting things that the customer literally could not care less about. And let's be real here. We've all been there. We've all fallen into the trap of busy work. You know that feeling. You're ticking off boxes, you feel super productive, but in the grand scheme of things, you're just polishing the nails while the patient is crashing. You're not actually moving the needle on what determines success. So the big question is, how do we stop this? How do we break free from that busy work trap? Well, the answer, it all comes down to understanding what is critical to quality. All right, so what is a CTQ really? Put simply, it's a characteristic of your product or service that is absolutely essential for customer satisfaction. Think of it as the make or break factor. This is not some nice-to-have bonus feature. No, this is a must-have. If you miss the mark on this, it doesn't matter how amazing everything else is. You failed. Okay, think about it like this. You go out to a fancy steakhouse, right? The ambiance is perfect, the music is just right, the service is amazing. But then the steak arrives, and it's awful. It's tough. It's overcooked. So are you ever going back to that restaurant? No way. Why? Because the steak was the entire reason you were there. That was the CTQ, and they completely blew it. So why do we even bother with this? Well, it's pretty simple. Identifying CTQs narrows your focus. It forces you to concentrate your limited resources, your time, your money, your team, on what actually matters. This way, you maximize your impact and, maybe most importantly, you stop wasting precious effort on unimportant features. All right, so we get it. We need to find what's critical. But here's the catch. Customers rarely just hand you a list of technical specs. That brings us to a really important part of this process, moving from feeling to fact. This is the central challenge, right? Your customer speaks in feelings. They'll say things like, I just want it to be faster, or this needs to be easier to use. We call that the voice of the customer, and it's super important, but fast isn't a number. You can't track easy on a spreadsheet. Our job is to be translators, to take that fuzzy feeling and turn it into a concrete, measurable fact. And here are some great examples of that translation in action. The customer says, I want fast service. Okay, what does fast mean? For your business, it might translate to, a call is answered within 10 seconds. See, suddenly it's measurable. Or how about, your invoices are confusing? That's vague, but what if we translate that to, the customer's bill arrives on the exact same day every single month? Now that is a target you can actually track and manage. This all boils down to one of the most famous sayings in business, and for good reason. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it. It's as simple as that. This idea is the absolute bedrock of any process improvement. Without a number, you're flying blind. You're just guessing. Measurement. That's where it all begins. Okay, so how do we actually do this translation in a structured way? Well, one of the best tools out there is something called the CTQ tree method. The CTQ tree is actually pretty straightforward. It's got 3 basic steps. First, you identify the big, critical need. Then, you figure out the quality drivers, basically what things contribute to that need. And finally, you list out the actual, measurable requirements. Let's look at an example. Okay, check this out. The customer's big need is excellent service. But what does that even mean? Well, this company found that for their customers, it boils down to 3 drivers: friendly technicians, knowledgeable employees, and timely service. But we can't stop there, right? So we keep digging. Look at timely service. That breaks down into actual metrics. Return calls the same day 90% of the time and arrive within the quoted time window 90% of the time. Boom! Just like that, we've gone from a vague feeling to hard numbers. And this is the most important rule of all, so listen up. The end point of every single branch on your CTQ tree must be a number. I don't care if it's a percentage, a time, a score. It has to be quantifiable. It can't be another vague concept. If you can't put it on a dashboard, you haven't gone deep enough. All right, so once you've built your tree, you might be looking at a whole bunch of potential CTQs, which is great. But now you have a new problem. You can't do everything at once. So the final piece of the puzzle is figuring out where to focus. It's time to find the vital few. And the tool we're going to use for that is a concept you've probably heard of, but maybe haven't applied this way before. I'm talking about the 80-20 rule. You've probably heard this called the Pareto principle, and it's this incredibly powerful idea that in almost any situation, roughly 80% of your results come from just 20% of your efforts. You see it everywhere. 80% of sales come from 20% of customers. 80% of software crashes are caused by 20% of the bugs. It's like a universal law. This chart shows it perfectly. You've got this huge 80% chunk called the trivial many. These are all the things that have a tiny impact. Then you've got that small 20% slice, the vital few. Our entire job is to learn how to ignore the trivial many and pour all of our focus into that vital few, because that is what drives 80% of customer satisfaction. And that brings us right back to where we started. The whole point of identifying your CTQs is to find that vital few. Your real critical to quality characteristics are that 20% of things that will deliver 80% of the value. This is how you stop polishing the nails and start focusing on the heartbeat. It's how you get maximum impact. So I want to leave you with a question to take back to your own work. What are the 20% of features that drive 80% of your customers' happiness? Stop trying to make everything perfect. Find those vital few things, the things that truly matter, measure them, and then make them absolutely flawless.